we said that one of the biggest constraints to economic growth in South Africa is lack of implementation about those things which have been decided upon. That if at least we implement about 30% of the things which we say we're going to implement, we'll be making great progress, which speaks to the capacity and capability of the state to implement, but also speaks to the failure to rally around the major economic actors in South Africa to pull in the same direction. Let me give an example. When you mentioned that we should review the extension of collective bargaining agreements to non-parties, you won't get everybody moving in the same direction. Immediately you probably get insults from everybody else who is benefiting from the extension of collectively bargained agreements to non-parties. They don't want to talk about it. And then you get stuck. If you dare ask a question about whether the level of the national minimum wage is appropriate for a society with such high levels of unemployment and so on, you're going to be banned at the stake. Because nobody's going to move along with you. They say, no, but we have just signed an agreement about this. No, we've just agreed at NEDLEC that we're going to introduce it. You're not allowed to ask the question, well, the situation maybe has changed, and therefore maybe we should look at this thing again, but then you're going to be banned at the stake. So we have a problem in that the key economic actors are not moving in the same direction. They're pulling away from each other, and therefore we're not able to move decisively in the direction that we're supposed to move. But anybody who thinks that they were ever promised a rose garden makes a big mistake. It was bound to be difficult, and I think we should trudge on. So implementation. And then after the first colloquium, a number of you were part of the secretariat, or the rapporteurs as it were, working together with the National Treasury, drafted some report of the conference. I don't know whether people ever received it. I don't remember reading it myself, but I think they drafted a report. Then we all went for the Christmas holidays. And in January we got together again to follow up on the conversations in December. After which, at the political level, I went to the ANC, NEC Lekgotla, what the Afrikaners used to call a Bosberaad, and presented some of the ideas which had come up here. One of the things I've learned over the years is that you need political buy-in, as if you think you can just parachute policy from somewhere without political buy-in, you're wasting your time, which most think tanks don't understand. They think they can just come up with a document and politicians will just implement. It won't happen. You need political buy-in. Because after all, at the end of the day, policy is politics. No matter how much we think we're technicians, we're not influenced by any material conditions around us or any thinking. We have no philosophy. We're just technicians. It's not true. We're all influenced by one political philosophy or the other. We said this was Keynes or somebody. We said that economists would think that their objective are probably slaves of some defunct economists, which is probably true. Now, after the NEC Lekgotla, we We then proceeded to the cabinet in January and presented some of the ideas once again. Some of those ideas, I think, found themselves in the State of the Nation address, which was progress. And then somewhere in between the National Treasury Economics Division had been working for a while on putting together, including the ideas which came from here, putting together some kind of an economic strategy for South Africa. In part, the structure was influenced by what Professor Rangu and some other 12 Indian economists have done. Because I'm sure you've seen the document. They've written a document, an economic strategy for India. I found the style of the document very appealing, and in conversation with the staff at the not Reserve Bank, maybe it's the Reserve Bank too, the National Treasury, thought that we could use these ideas which are coming up and put them together in a document that we eventually entitled Towards an Economic Strategy for South Africa. And in August we published that. Of course, we should have anticipated that there was going to be a massive response to the document. And it was satisfying that for a number of days and weeks, at least the country was in conversation about an economic strategy, for or against, or whatever the case might be. It was quite nice to get a conversation going. We then received well over 700 comments on the document, which the staff at the Treasury have gone through. My guidance to them was ideas which are internally consistent with what we're trying to do, we should incorporate. But those which are internally inconsistent, we should just appreciate the contribution, but say, this is not consistent with what we're trying to do. Let me give you an example. Somebody who says, in order to get the economy going, the economic strategy must say we are abandoning inflation targeting. That is internally inconsistent with what we're trying to do. Or somebody who says the National Treasury must instruct the South African Reserve Bank to cut interest rates by 200 basis points. That's inconsistent with our mandate. We can't do that. So it could have a very good ventilation, but it's not consistent with the policy framework. So I think we're now at a point where we are at the tail end of the preparations. So this meeting today gives us the opportunity really to have the last bite, as it were. And over the weekend, in some mountain somewhere, on some mountain somewhere, I'll be spending the time with the Treasury team, not only going through the medium-term budget statement, but really finalizing this document. It's now almost injury time. The expectation is that when we submit the medium-term budget policy statement, we should also provide the finalized version of the economic strategy. But as you know, these things are not static, they keep moving. So I'm not quite sure whether we'll say the economic strategy of South Africa or we're still towards strategy, because this thing it moves all the time. And we should allow the the policy document to be a moving and evolving document, not some kind of dogmatic statement. But those of you who have experience in policy drafting, I'm sure will provide some suggestions for what we want to do. And then somewhere around the 24th, 25th, I'll probably have a conversation with the cabinet colleagues again. And we'll be ready then to go to the medium-term budget statement. I need to say here that the medium-term budget policy statement is likely to be presented earlier than the 30th of October. Where initially, did you don't look at me like that? Were initially planned on the 30th of October. We planned that around the president's diary. It turns out that he might be out of the country. So we're going to have to pull back the date. I'm saying this to avoid any rumor mongering in the market. So that, and the date that we're looking at is the 29th now of October. But the Cabinet Secretariat will make the announcement probably later today. So that's where we are, colleagues, and I see the landlords are not here to welcome us. So since Dr. Mukade and myself used to be the landlord and landlady here, we will just welcome this is a very familiar room. Brings back lots of difficult memories. So welcome. Is there anything else, DG, you want to say?
Thank you very much, Minister. Minister, you're correct. We, colleagues, as you know, this has been a very interesting journey since the paper was produced. 748 comments is what we have, and more comments still coming through. Later in the conversation, you will hear what some of the comments are, and that's essentially what we're going to be discussing. Sharing with you some comments and sharing with you some preliminary thoughts on the comments that are coming from some of you and from many South Africans out there. So it's an exciting journey for us as a treasury, because initially we had to cut the myth that says this paper was written by some people far away from here. The team that wrote the paper is essentially here at the back, and Mboweni is going to take us through later in terms of the actual comments, because she's been leading the team from our side with Duncan, who's currently at Harvard studying there for a year. So it's an exciting time because it features prominently in what we've been saying from, at least if you remember, from October 2017 around some of the things that we started putting out there. And as the Minister said, some of these ideas came through in the budget last year, in February. Some of these ideas came through in October this time last year in the medium-term budget and in the President's speech. So there are easy pickings that we will, low-hanging fruit that we have to implement and get going with it, and details of which obviously are coming through later on the 29th or the 30th, as the Minister said. But we finally, Minister, we are quite happy that we got South Africans talking, because it's important for the future of this country. It's important for what this country can do, the potential that we have as a country, not only for our continent, but just generally in the emerging economies, we can quite be big if we have to do the right thing. So I'll stop there, Minister, so that Vuyo can take us through later. Thank you.
Okay. This is Deputy Minister David Masondo, who is also the school principal of the Oliver Tambo School of Leadership. So when you hear me refer to him from time to time as a principal, don't be surprised. And then Deputy Governor Kasim is not here yet, but he should be joined us. Governor Lisecha Khanyaho is in Washington for the IMF World Bank meetings. We decided not to go this time because we have work to do here at home. So we canceled going to Washington for the IMF World Bank meetings. Maybe just as well, so that nobody can say the paper was finalized by the IMF. But we can really confirm that the paper was finalized in Makowasov on some mountain there. Okay, I suppose this, has anybody from the press got one question before we ask you to leave? None. Thank you very much, colleagues from the media. We appreciate that you joined us for this briefing. We're going to take a 5-minute break to allow you to remove these recording things so there's no accident at all. So just 5 minutes break. Thank you very much. Good morning, how are you?
All right, Finance Minister there, Tito Mboweni, a sharp focus with regards to the South African economy. This colloquium on the South African economy currently happening in the capital of South Africa, Pretoria. And it basically brings a number of role players, stakeholders, think tanks, I guess, government officials, public and private sector economists, as well as academia, in order to discuss policy proposals and how to take it forward and how to grow and sustain this economy in South Africa.